Hi, in this lesson, we're going to revisit the strings data type. We learned about strings in the last lesson, but there are a lot of cool things we can do with strings that we don't yet know about, so let's learn them. Remember that a string is any sequence of characters that is given between a set of quotation marks. In the last lesson, we saw that we can use variables to print a label to the canvas or the console, the same way we use variables in other parts of our programs. But what if we wanted to combine multiple strings into one write command? Say, in this case, where we wanted to create a greeting depending on the name saved inside a variable. To do this, we can use something called concatenation. To concatenate strings, we place a plus sign between the different items, and they will all be pieced together to form our final string. In this case, hello, Tracy. Note that we need to include a space after the string hello. If we do not, there will be no space between our string hello and our string Tracy. Also, remember, if we want to use the value of the variable, we do not include quotation marks around the variable name. We can use concatenation the same way with the write command or the print command. We can also concatenate two strings together directly. Note that we keep the space in one of the strings to make sure the words are separated by a space in the output. Now let's revisit something we touched upon in the last lesson, which is a reason we need to care about data types. If we want to concatenate a string and a number, and we try to do this the same way we concatenated strings, we will get an error that tells us we cannot concatenate str and int objects. In order for us to use the write or print function, the value we give must all be of one type. Have we learned something that can help us fix this issue? We have. If we surround the variable name that contains an integer value with the keyword str, it will change the type of the variable to a string, which can then be concatenated with another string, and we'll see the output we were expecting. Let's take a look at one more issue we may run into when printing text in our programs. If we want to print a quote inside our text, we may enter something that looks like this. When we type this command, we may notice that something is up because usually the text we're going to print turns blue, but we have some funky coloring happening here. When running this command, we will receive an error. So what's happening? Well, Python sees the second double quotes here and assumes that this is the end of the string, even though that isn't what we meant. Thankfully, there's a way to fix this, and it uses something called an escape sequence. If we type a backslash directly before typing a quotation mark, Python will view the quotation mark as a character instead of reading it as a signal that this is the end of the string, and the output will be as expected. Let's take a deeper look at this. We call the backslash an escape character. This is because when we use this character, we can deviate from the normal way Python would read our text and have something else happen instead. When we use the escape character with another character, it is called an escape sequence. There are two escape sequences we can use when we want to print quotation marks. If we want a double quotation mark to be a printed character in our string rather than ending our string, we put a backslash right before the quotation mark we want to print. We can do the same thing with a single quotation mark. We put a backslash before a single quotation mark if we want it to be a printed character. These allow us to use these characters inside our strings. Another escape sequence that can come in handy is new line. If we type a backslash followed by the letter N inside a string, it will go to the next line at that point and then continue printing the rest of the text. Note that the new line escape sequence must be inside the string, meaning inside the quotation marks, in order to work. Something important to know is that the new line escape sequence will only work in the print command, not in the write command. To add a second line of text with the write command, we need to move Tracy to a new location and then call the write command at that position. In this lesson, we learned how to concatenate strings and use escape sequences to print more nicely formatted strings. Now it's your turn.